Hi, I'm Caroline Schroeder from the University of the Pacific, and I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you a bit about our project, Coptic Scriptorium. This is a collaboration with Dr. Amir Zeldez of Humboldt University. Right now, we're at the very beginning phase of our project, and I'll be showing you what we're calling a proof of concept, namely a few examples of the kinds of things we can do and that we'd like to do, things that we hope to expand in the future as the project progresses. The research objectives for the project are to provide an online open source digital platform for interdisciplinary work, namely for corpus linguistics research in the Coptic language. And by the way, the Coptic language is the last phase of the Egyptian language, descended ultimately from the hieroglyphs of ancient Egyptian. The project also will provide searchable text for historical and literary research in Coptic, visualizations of Coptic texts and manuscripts, a platform that's interoperable with current XML standards, and also that allows for and encourages collaborations with and contributions from other scholars. To this end, the project is a corpus of Coptic texts, first and foremost. That corpus involves a richly annotated database using the ANIS database technology. I'll go over each of these in a few moments. The corpus also will provide TEI XML versions of the text for download. TEI XML is a set of standards for encoding texts created by the Text Encoding Initiative. These are common standards used by many other academic projects creating databases of texts. And last, the corpus provides visualizations, including visualizations of diplomatic editions of manuscripts, both separately in HTML and also within the database. A diplomatic edition is simply an edition of a manuscript that tries to replicate as closely as possible the way the text appears on the manuscript page. This will become more obvious in a moment. In addition to a corpus of texts, our project provides tools for digitally processing texts in Coptic, documentation, and a platform where scholars and students will be able to contribute texts and/or annotations to conduct research. So first, the texts. Our proof of concept corpora is small. We have two sets of texts. First, a letter called Abraham Our Father, written by the monk Shenouda, who led a monastery of men and women in Egypt in the 4th and 5th centuries. And the second set of texts are a few sayings of the Desert Fathers translated into Coptic, also known as the Coptic Apothegmata Patrum. The corpora contain diplomatic and normalized editions of the texts, translations into English, and some annotations. I'll walk you through all of these in just a moment. All of this material is available online, and I will now take you to the database and the online materials. So here is the website for our proof of concept. You'll see an introduction, and then the corpora. First, Abraham Our Father. You can read about Abraham Our Father if you click on About the Corpus. It will take you to a frequently asked questions page where there are a number of questions and information about the project. If you click on this link, you'll be able to search the corpus in the ANIS database. I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. You can download the corpus in two formats, Paula XML and also the ANIS database. ANIS can be run as a standalone database within a web browser. So even if you are not online, if you've downloaded it, you can open it in your browser and operate it from your desktop. And here are individual documents that are all contained in the database. We have the TEI XML version of each text, and the diplomatic editions and the normalized editions. We take you to what each of these looks like. Here's the XML. All of the metadata is encoded using the TEI XML subset for Epidoc, which is the standard set of XML tags used by epigraphers, papyrologists, and other folks working on ancient documents. The diplomatic edition of a text will replicate what the manuscript looks like. And as you can see, when you hover over the page, it will tell you what page of the manuscript it is. This is manuscript YA 518. This means it's the codex that's been given the cataloging number YA, and it's page number 518 in Codex YA. You can see here all of the manuscripts in the database have these codes, YA, ZH, XL. These are all standard sigla for manuscripts from the White Monastery in Egypt. And Coptologists all use these sigla to reference the different manuscripts. The normalized version of the text will give you the text with normalized spelling, punctuation, and word spacing, so it's easier to read. When you hover over it, you'll get an English translation. This English translation comes from Shenouda scholar and scholar of early Christianity more generally, Rebecca Craywick. Likewise, the Apothegmata Patrum, we have TEI XML, diplomatic, and normalized editions. So let's just take a look. So these apothegmata are very small, so you can see the text is very short. This is a saying of Amasera. The normalized edition, again, we have the translation. Those are the corpora. The tools that are provided are also on the website for download. I'll walk through them in a minute, but we have a tokenizer, part of speech tagger, and documentation. So now for the tools. I've shown you the corpus. Let me show you the tools. These tools are tools we use to create our corpus. So first, we have an encoding converter. In fact, two encoding converters. One for a very basic old laser Coptic or other font used by the CMCL, which is another Coptic database project. A second converter is much more extensive. It will convert the entire Coptic font, an old ASCII font created by Gregor Verst and Dirk van Dam, into Unicode. So the converters convert each of these fonts into UTF-8, into Unicode. So you can see here the text in ASCII now converted into the standard Coptic Unicode character set. We also provide for download a file format converter known as Salt and Pepper. This was created by the linguistics team at Humboldt University, And so it's not something created specifically for our project, but it is very useful for our project, and we anticipate people who might be contributing materials or using materials from our project might find this useful. And essentially, it will take files in a variety of formats and convert them into any other set of formats, including the format we use for the ANIS database. Next, we have tools that will process files of Coptic text to make them useful, searchable, readable in a database, namely a tokenization script. Oops, my apologies. And a lexicon. The tokenization script basically processes files of Coptic text to break the words into morphemes. If you're watching this presentation, you probably know that Coptic words are comprised of multiple morphemes hooked together like Legos into a longer word. So you might have a subject, a tense converter, a verb, and a direct object, all hooked together, linked together to create one word. For linguistic analysis, grammatical analysis, stylistic analysis, you'll want to be able to separate apart all those different morphemes. The tokenization script does this, and it's based in part on a lexicon provided by Tito Orlandi, for which we're very grateful. For our standards, we follow Bentley-Leighton's Sahidic Coptic grammar for how words are constructed, how morphemes are understood. So here's an example. We have two kinds of tokenizers. One takes a normalized text. So here you see a text of Coptic broken into nice little words. This is an example of the Sayings of the Desert Fathers, the Apothegmata. And the text is copied from Shane's edition of the Apothegmata, but also checked against the original manuscript so that there is original editorial work involved. The tokenization script takes what's on the left and then breaks it up into morphemes. So here you have the word aujaos broken into the perfect tense converter, alpha, the subject, the verb, jo'o, and the direct object, the sigma. For diplomatic texts, it's a little more complicated because lines break in the middle of words. We had to provide a little bit more formatting in the diplomatic edition of a text in order to pull it into our database and in order to break it into morphemes. We're hoping in future versions to have a tokenizer that is a little bit more sophisticated and requires less pre-processing of the text. But for now, this is what we have. So here you have a formatted diplomatic text. The editor or transcriber has added underlines between words and pipes between morphemes. The reason why we use underlines instead of spaces is because there are spaces in the manuscripts on occasion. And so we want to reserve the space key for things that are actually spaces. You don't see these underscores in a manuscript, so we use those to divide words. And then the tokenizer will break this into morphemes for tagging, but will also preserve all the column breaks, page breaks, and line breaks in alignment as they appear across the manuscript. So here you see the tokens, the smallest bits of text, and the words. Actually, here are the tokens down the bottom. The words as they are traditionally divided, especially according to Bentley-Leighton's grammar. And then here, the second line, are the morphemes. and all of these stay in alignment. Next, for our tools, we have a part of speech tagger. The part of speech tagger takes a tokenized text and provides a part of speech tag text. Again, the parts of speech follow Layton's grammar. So here you have pe, the article, nuta, the noun, pe, the copula, and the punctuation, all of which have been automatically tagged by the pause tagger. We have two different parts of speech taggers. One is a coarse grain tagger with 22 tags. Another is a fine grain tagger with 44 tags. The finely grained tagger, for example, has different kinds of pronouns in its tag set, whereas the coarsely grained tagger has only one pronoun tag. It tags all pronouns, whether they're subjects, objects, etc., with the same pronoun tag. The finely grained tagger is slightly less accurate than the coarsely grained tagger. So all of these layers of information, the morphemes, the line breaks, the column breaks, the part of speech tagger, all these layers feed into the ANIS database. The ANIS database is open source, licensed under an Apache 2.0 license, and it's developed at the Institute for German Language and Linguistics at Humboldt University. Now I'm going to walk you through a couple of searches in ANIS using some screenshots. So when you open ANIS, when you click on that link that was on the website, you'll be taken to the database. You might see something that looks like this. You may also see some sample searches in this right-hand screen. Over here in the lower left, you'll see all the texts that are in the corpus. Up here in the upper left is where you create a search. And this is a display for various items of information. So here you see our two main corpora, Abraham our father and the Apothegmata Patrum. You can click on the corpus to select that corpus for searching, or you can right-click and select more than one corpus. You click on the I for information about the corpus. So here I've clicked on I for information about Abraham our father. It's told us who's done the annotations, the name of the corpus, the language, the project, translation, and then it gives you all the different annotations for this particular corpus. You can see in this column there's some sample searches. If you were to click on, say, norm here, this search will get populated into this query box in ANIS. So here's an example. I've clicked on this. Norm is for the normalized text, and it's given me the sample search here in the search box. Then you could modify it, say. So you want to search for nuta instead of n. And it will search for all instances of nuta in the normalized text. Here's an example of such a search. You'll notice I've clicked on the keyboard. There's an embedded keyboard. You'll see right here. Here's the keyboard on your ANIS screen. and then you can use it to type in the Coptic text even if you don't have the font embedded or installed in your operating system. So I've used the keyboard to type in Nuta, to do a search for Nuta in the normalized layer, and then on the right the search results are displayed. The font used here is Antonov, an open source, open access font for Coptic. You can also change the layer in which the main search results are displayed. So if you look right here, you see this option called base text. If you click on base text, you'll see the option to see the search results displayed as tokens, as the diplomatic edition, as a diplomatic edition broken up in words, and as a normalized edition, which is norm. Here you see the search results displayed just in the token level. If you click on the plus sign here by annotations grid, you'll see all the annotations of the text laid out in a grid. So here you go. Column breaks, the diplomatic edition of the text broken into words, line breaks, the normalized text, the normalized words. This is your paragraph breaks, the pages, the part of speech tagging, the translation, and the tokens. And here you see Nuta is in red because Nuta is the search term that's being displayed. You can also search metadata about the text. So for example, here I've clicked on manuscript name, and Annis has populated the search screen with the metadata manuscript name equals White Monastery Codex YA. So now all of my searches will search only within manuscripts from the Codex YA. Node. The node is just all the different layers in the text, all the different things that you can search within the text, as opposed to the metadata, which is information about the text. The nodes are the different layers of data in the database. So I'm going to replace this node note here with actual information. So here I'm searching for all instances of the word Shera in the normalized text of YA manuscripts. So we've combined a metadata search with a text search. And in the right, you see all the instances of Shera that appear. Now these are all fairly simple searches that I've shown you so far. There are some more complicated things you can do. So take, for example, this search. This search uses regular expressions, which is a fairly standard, computational set of commands. To look in the translation for instances of the word son or the word daughter that appear in the same range as another word that is a proper name. So you're looking for sons or daughters that's near something with a proper name. And here you go. So for example, here's an example of Deborah and probably son or daughter is appearing off screen. Here's a similar search using the Coptic words for son and daughter. Shera or She'era, son or daughter. And so here we see things like son of Abraham, my son Isaac, appearing in the search results. So here you're searching two different layers of the database simultaneously. The part of speech layer that will tell you proper name, and the normalized text layer where you're searching for Shera or She'era, son or daughter. Now here's a search for Greek verbs. Again, it's searching two layers of the database. The layer that tells you information about the source language for the word, namely Greek, and the layer that's searching the part of speech, a verb. So if you want all Greek verbs, you would search the source language and the part of speech. And here are your results. If you click on the plus sign next to diplomatic text, you get a visualization of the diplomatic text as it appears in the manuscript. And if you click on the normalized text, you'll get the normalized edition of the text with standardized word breaks, spelling, and so forth. If you hover the cursor over the text, the English translation will appear. Finally, the last thing I want to say about the database is to show you this example of co-referencing. Here, you see all references to Apapapnuta, here, Apapapnuta, are highlighted in the same color. This tells you that even though these are different words, right, pahalo is a different word from Apapapnuta, these are the same thing. The database is relational and you can tag it for relationships between words. So here you can visualize very easily all of the things that are highlighted in the same color are referring to the same thing. Papnuta is referenced by name, by the title The Old Man, and by the title My Father. And in addition to the visualizations here in the database, you have the HTML visualizations that are online. And there are a few things more. So as I showed you online, you can download the TEI XML compatible text and metadata. And these files will validate to the Epidoc TEI schemas to ensure interoperability with other TEI Epidoc texts and projects. Coptic Scriptorium is committed to providing an open source and open access project. Our texts and tools are freely available. They can be modified. And the only thing we ask is that you attribute the work to the source, namely our project. This license is the Creative Commons by license. The long-term goals for the project are to expand the corpus, both ourselves and with the help of collaborators, to improve our existing taggers and tokenizers, and to expand our tools to include taggers for named entities, so you can automatically tag named entities, language of origin, Greek, Latin, Hebrew, maybe Arabic. There are a couple of Arabic terms that get put back into Coptic. A lematizer, and then hopefully to expand the platform to be a truly collaborative one, which will allow for other scholars to contribute texts as well as annotation layers in a fairly easy to use way. What we'd like from you, our listeners and viewers, are, of course, if you're a Coptic scholar, we'd like you to consider donating texts to the database. As you can see in the metadata and on the website, we acknowledge all contributions. We acknowledge the editors, annotators, providers of all materials. And we also want feedback. What do you want from a database? What kinds of visualizations do you want? What kinds of tools do you want? And what do you think of the existing tools? How well do they work for you? And last, thank you very much for listening and viewing. And we also thank all the people and institutions that have made this project possible. The University of the Pacific, the Institute for German Language and Linguistics, as well as the Corpus dei Manuscritti Copti Literari, and various individuals, especially the ANIS team at Humboldt University that provided a number of modifications to accommodate Coptic. Thanks, and we hope to hear from you.